Greetings, gents, and welcome to episode 15 of Econoclasm. You see the title, you can obviously tell where this is going. Apologies for censoring the naughty words, but I don't know if YouTube's going to let it go if I don't. Believe me, I don't care about censoring that, but I gotta do it. Now, obviously I'm going to spend this whole video shitting on Zelensky and his government. But before I do, let me give him slight props on one thing. So you know it's not just complete irrational hatred of every single thing he does. I do have to give him one thing. And that is disrespecting the White House and the Oval Office. Saw a lot of people freaking out that Zelensky didn't wear a suit to the Oval Office and it's a disrespect to the building and the office. Disrespecting the White House is an incredibly based and morally right thing to do. The White House, the Oval Office, has been the home of thieves, murderers, and tyrants for most of its history. It doesn't deserve respect. It's not worthy of the dirt on your shoes that you drag in from outside. It certainly isn't worth a fine suit. So fuck the White House. But now, fuck Zelensky. Now this isn't some, he spoke bad to Daddy Trump and he disrespected our president. Fuck Zelensky. No. Now granted, that was a really bad move on his part. Very stupid. But I don't care about that. I'm not going to be upset because he was mean to a certain person. No. I actually kind of alluded to this episode back in the Russia-Ukraine one. I needed an episode dedicated specifically to talking shit on Zelensky himself. Zelensky and his government have been absolutely atrocious. As any sort of beacon of freedom or decency that should be an ally of what America should be in theory. Perhaps the most annoying and just ridiculous aspect of all of it that just gets a fuck you from a not necessarily a moralistic standpoint, but just a human standpoint. It's just how grubby, selfish, and ungrateful he's been throughout his time as president. It's always just been gimme money, gimme. And when he gets it, it's no, that wasn't enough, gimme more. Screw you, I want more. You're bad if you don't give me more. Never offering any sort of gratitude that people give him anything. It's not our duty to protect Ukraine. But because our politicians want to steal our money and send it over there, it's what we're doing. But he still has zero concern about even an ounce of gratefulness. He'll keep going on the news and putting out videos saying how upset he is that the West isn't sending him more, and how it's ridiculous that he's getting so little, despite the fact that he is already getting plenty, hundreds of billions. It's never enough for Zelensky, and he's got to go out and demand more and whine and bitch and moan that we're not giving him as much as he wants. he's busy laundering most of it for him and his cronies, but then he'll go out and demand that we give him more to fight the war, but don't worry about where all the money that you sent me is gone, because most of it hasn't even gone to fighting the war. And he just sits there and whines for more. Although the whole greedy and never satisfied with money aspect, do the Wikipedia early life and you'll get an answer there. But he's also alluded to, if you don't send me more money, then you're going to have to send your sons and daughters to fight, because once Russia takes Ukraine, is clearly going to go after NATO for some reason. Putin, Russia, he, it. Words are used interchangeably, I don't care. But yeah, he's, it's not necessarily a threat, although SecDef Austin under Biden did threaten Congress to send more money to Ukraine, or the U.S. government was going to send U.S. men to fight the war. So that was a threat. That wasn't from Zelensky, but that was from Zelensky's allies, and probably people that he paid off. We know the whole Hunter Biden thing with the random job he got in Ukraine on the energy company. Now, that wasn't all under Zelensky's government, but there was a whole messy ordeal there that probably contributed to Zelensky, in part, kind of working with the Biden administration to give them money so that the Biden administration would threaten Congress to send more money to Ukraine, so Zelensky can launder it, use some of it for the war, and then demand more from the United States. But beyond that, the things he's done as president in the conduct of the war is just continuing to show that he's a piece of shit. He's not a friend of liberty. He's a tyrant. And absolutely not someone that a country like I said, the United States is supposed to be, should be allying with. You don't have to pick a side in a war. You do realize that. You can let two evil people just go at it. You don't have to, well, this one's slightly better in theory, some ways, maybe, possibly, so all support there. Like I said in the Russia-Ukraine video, for years, Russia and Ukraine were the two bottom countries in terms of who was the most corrupt in Europe. Russia was the most corrupt, and Ukraine was always the second most. Now, if you look at it, Russia's the most, Belarus is the second most, and Ukraine, I think, is the third most, as of the latest rankings. And I don't know if I trust that somehow in the course of a war with a president doing everything he's done, which I'll talk about soon, and all the cronyism and corruption that his government's been a part of, that somehow they are now less corrupt than Belarus. All these think tanks and policy groups, they're all politically motivated, and they couldn't possibly have good old democratic Ukraine be more corrupt than the country who's allied with Russia. So there's a real decent chance that they just had to put Belarus below Ukraine, even though I'm pretty sure all those years where it was Russia, Ukraine on the bottom two, Belarus was always third most corrupt. But still, I can't imagine. I mean, it's not impossible, but I don't think it'll just randomly swap like that, just conveniently, when the war breaks out, that they just happen to slide Ukraine and Belarus past each other. But regardless, Ukraine is still an incredibly corrupt country. And we can see it with just Zelensky's policies. I mean, he was elected in 2019 on a 5-year term. He's now in year 6. No elections were held. Now, a lot of people will come back with, well, you can't have elections in a war. Well, if democracy is so important and so sacred, why can you suspend it that easily? If democracy is the greatest thing in the world, like these people want it to seem to be, even though it's atrocious and retarded, why can you just say, oh, well, we can have democracy later, because we're fighting for democracy. Democracy comes when the fight for democracy is over. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not giving up on that point. If you claim we need to support Ukraine for democracy, you can't say that it's okay to not have democracy because the war's going on. Either democracy is important to you or it isn't. If you want to say it doesn't matter because you don't care about fighting for democracy in Ukraine, then okay, fine. Props to you for being ideologically consistent. But if you really want democracy as this great ideal, you have to let it happen, even in a war, because it's that important. That a bunch of midwits can go out and decide who runs everything for the entire country. And the authoritarian policies and power consolidation. People during... Who the fuck was that? There was some dumbass. I can't remember. Biden. Oh. Dumbass. Obviously Biden. He was worrying about, the concentration of power because of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and blah, 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 in his farewell address. But if you want to look at consolidation of power, look no further than Zelensky. He's banned any opposition parties. Only him and his party are allowed in government. Very democratic. He's banned any media and consolidated all into state-run media. Although, we have that here in the U.S. too, so this is an illusion of not, but any media is completely under the Zelensky regime. Any journalists who speak out against him or who have any different view are silenced, arrested, disappeared, whatever, including an American journalist, Gonzalo Lira, American Chilean journalist, but American still, who was arrested, tortured, and killed by the Zelensky regime because he spoke out against the war. That's fucked up. That's the shit that makes me say, fuck you, Zelensky. If you're torturing and killing American journalists because they say things you don't like, fuck you. That's not a wild thing for me to say. I think it's fucked up if you don't say it about this guy. And also, the motherfucker banned churches and was raiding churches to steal their artifacts for the war effort, whatever the fuck that does for it. Yeah, if you're banning churches, I'm sorry, but you're the bad guy. And I'm going to be entirely opposed to you. Yes, pray for your enemies. I know. But I can still say fuck you if you're doing it with no ounce of repentance or looking to turn back. church matters way more than the government or some gay ideal of democracy. If you're against the church, I am fully against you. So yeah, fuck off, Zelensky. Although, it's interesting to note that little, back when Zelensky ordered the, draft that every fighting age man 18 to 60 was required to serve in defense of Ukraine, there was one religion that was exempt from it. Wonder what that religion is. Might be related to the whole early life Wikipedia lookup I mentioned earlier. Now, I'm not one to think, it's always the Jews, or all Jews are evil, or because you're a Jew, you're going to be evil. My favorite political commentator is Jewish. 2 of the 3 hosts of my favorite podcast are Jewish. I'm an Austrian when it comes to economics. Much of that school is Jewish, although the founder was a Austrian Catholic of noble birth, but it's neither here nor there. So no, I'm not one of the dumbasses who thinks it's always the Jews, because then you're letting people like Obama's, the Clintons, the Bidens, Bill Gates, China, all off the hook because you just want to blame this one group. But if you're forcing everyone to die because you won't sign a peace treaty, but then you let one religion off the hook for it, that's going to raise some eyebrows, and it's going to be problematic. And just so happens to be the same religion of Zelensky. That's an issue. But, it's perfectly fine for him to send Christians to die and ban them from worship. That's perfectly okay. Fuck off. And in the sense of that whole draft and people have to fight, you can see that now, because Zelensky refuses to sign a peace treaty or reach peace because he doesn't want to let go of his growing power and corruption and cronyism, there's videos you can find of the Ukrainian military police kidnapping people, literally dragging them kicking and screaming into vans to force them to fight, because this little piece of shit won't sign a peace treaty, won't end the war. I'm sorry, but you're letting hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people die because of your ego, your desire for power. And because you're so low on men, you're kidnapping people and forcing them to fight. Fuck Zelensky. I'm going to keep saying it. It's the title of the episode, and it's a good thing to say. And sort of in line with that, during the start of the war, Zelensky created illegal civilian militias who were, I don't care about much international law, but if you're so big on Ukraine and democracy and the law and what the fuck ever, you have to stay ideologically consistent. That's why I'm hitting you on it. I don't care necessarily that it's illegal, even if you get rid of the whole point that it's done illegally. There was still just, thugs given power by Zelensky who were just going around killing anyone who they thought might be Russian or sympathetic to Russia. It's not a great thing. It came out that there was a blacklist of U.S. citizens. I don't know exactly what the purpose of the blacklist was, what the whole then I guess just ban travel, ban working with, whatever. And had people like Glenn Greenwald, Rand Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, what have you. A blacklist of citizens who, and I wrote this specifically in my notes, who opposed sucking off Ukraine. Because that's basically what it was. If you opposed sucking off Ukraine, Ukraine put you on a blacklist and didn't like you because you didn't want to bow down to them and just give them everything they asked for. And then they also had an illegal, not an illegal, let's look at my notes in the wrong spot, an enemies list and possibly a kill list of various people, which included the Pope. Yes, the Holy Father was on the enemy list of Ukraine. And here, let me find it again. And real quickly translate. What it says. Supports Russian Catholics in their aggressive action against Ukraine. Supports the people in his church? Yeah, I'd say so. An accomplice to the crimes of the Russian government against Ukrainian citizens. Yet the Pope is really an accomplice in an invasion. Really? Took direct part in the life of the Catholic Church in the Russian Federation. He's the head of the Catholic Church of the world. But, yeah. The Pope is on their enemies list because he's fond of Catholics. Okay. So, Zelensky and his regime have just been a corrupt, tyrannical power grab and constellation of power under Zelensky. He's an enemy to everything the West stands for. Sure, Putin's not a good guy either. Just let them have a boxing match to settle it. I think we all know who would win that pretty quickly. But I would enjoy seeing Putin punch Zelensky's face in. But hundreds of thousands of people are dying. People who have no part in this retarded conflict over if this small area of the land is ruled by corrupt Moscow or corrupt Kiev. They're dying because Zelensky refuses peace because of his fragile Napoleon complex ego that he wants to continue to consolidate power, stay in power. Oh, if we end the war, then I finally have to hold elections and then I can't keep laundering money. No, fuck you. Yes, this was primed by the whole White House situation between him and Donald Trump, but mostly because it's just a good time to do it. I don't care about, him being rude to Trump. I care about him being a piece of shit and a tyrant. The war needs to end. Zelensky is not willing to end it. I would love to see the ICC go after him when this war is over. Doubt they will, but it would be pretty dope. A random thought popped in my head, completely unrelated to this. Alexander Hamilton deserved to die. Just gotta get that out there. It popped in, I gotta say it. It's true, but like I said, completely unrelated. 230 years ago and completely different country, politics, whatever. But aside from that, in conclusion to the episode as a whole, fuck Zelensky.